What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV, here for your Packers Daily Chat. It's Tuesday afternoon. The Packers are off, but that doesn't mean there isn't stuff to talk about in the wake of the 22-0 victory over the Bills. People still chatting about Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. Obviously, the Lions are coming up. They're smarting after a loss to the Cowboys. Lots to talk about. So, as is tradition, 5 o'clock Eastern in the afternoon, we come on board here at the old Facebook Live and chat with you fine folks, Packer fans all over the world. We've had people checking in from everywhere this week. And Brett starts us off with BJ Raji, Le'Veon Bell. Who knows what that's about? Hello, David. Thanks for jumping in. Josh, hello. Oh, that's a great question, Josh. Can we get our win-loss fixed from 2-1-1 to 3-1? The NFL's competition committee admitting via sourcing from Ian Rappaport, who obviously works for the league website and network, that the call that basically robbed the Packers of a victory against the Vikings was made erroneously. Finally, weeks later, they say pretty much what everyone has been saying ever since the moment it happened, that the Packers were jobbed. It's Fail Mary Part 2. And no, they're never going to go back and fix it. It's just something the Packers and their fans are going to have to live with yet again. Good times. Albany, New York, what's up, man? How are you, Chuck? Costa Rica, what's up, Steve? And Mexico checking in. What's up, Jose? Florida. Indiana, James, what's up? How you doing? Florida's still hot there, huh? Yeah, it's warm here in New York, and I'm really sick of it. Really sick of it. Ready for fall, ready for sweaters and jeans and all that stuff. Colorado, what's up? I have a hunch that Aaron and the offense are going to come out strong against Detroit. Whit, you would hope so. They've had a month now. They've had 4 games to get whatever they needed to get out of their system. They have not come close to putting together even something resembling a full performance yet. It's a good chance that, that Detroit defense has its issues. If they can get on the same page, we'll see if Randall Cobb is any closer to returning. We should start to get that kind of news tomorrow when they have to release their first injury report. But, yes, I think the opportunity is there for them to finally gel. But a lot has to happen. Do you see Mike McCarthy game planning towards Detroit weak run defense? I don't think he'll go overboard or anything like that, but it is certainly something they can exploit. They've always had kind of trouble in that building in regards to the noise and doing a lot of what they like to do along the line of scrimmage, adjustment-wise. It will be interesting to see how much they allow Rodgers to do, given they had a number of communication breakdowns at home against the Bills. A lot of pressure packages that the Bills threw at them that they had trouble kind of maintaining control of. Running the ball would be a good way to counter a lot of that. Obviously, you want to get ahead of the sticks. The big problem they keep having is they are successful on some running plays, obviously, but then they get these negative plays on first down, and that's despite we saw Aaron Jones have a few, we saw Jamal Williams have a few, and then they're in 2nd 11, 2nd and 12, and they have real trouble overcoming those sticks. So I think the running game is a good way to get ahead of those issues, especially the communication issues up front. But how much McCarthy leans on it, I'm not so sure that we're ever going to see kind of a ground and pound kind of attack from the Packers offense. Is Rodgers practicing this week? Corey, we'll know tomorrow. The Packers are off today. The first practice of the week is tomorrow. We'll see. He practiced Thursday last week. Maybe this week we get him on a Wednesday. We'll see. Young secondary played well. I agree. Now, obviously, they were playing against a overmatched rookie quarterback, but I think they did definitely play their most complete game. They certainly seemed to lack any kind of communication issues. Were all over most of the receivers, even when Allen was off a little bit on his delivery. It's a good first step. It's their most complete performance. There's no doubt about that. It's a whole other ball game in Detroit against Matt Stafford. Maybe Rodgers drinking is causing the problem. Seems to be a hot-button topic. Daniel, he likes to have some scotch. I like to have some scotch. Nothing wrong with that. Thoughts on Montravius Adams? Hard to have many thoughts about a guy who can't crack the regular rotation. I'm sure he'll be used as the year goes on, as they see fit, but right now it's Dean Lowry's music that they're playing. 2 shutouts in a row. Nathan, I'm not a betting man, but I would be willing to bet $5 that they can't shut out the Detroit Lions at home. But crazier things have happened. Aaron, what do you think about bringing in Kendall Reyes? I was high on him coming out of UConn. I'd be surprised if they went that route, but you never know. I mean, they did bring in Brashawn Breeland, who I expect to see a little bit more of this week, but you can never count anybody out, especially with a new general manager who we're just kind of trying to learn his ways and how he likes to adjust to roster issues, but I would be surprised if they went that route. Anything further on Jair? Nothing, Daniel. We won't know anything on any of the injuries until tomorrow. That's when we'll start to get our first glimpse of what's going on there. Whitehead looking good? Matthew, I think so. I thought he had a really strong game. I don't think, I said this on the radio this morning, I don't think anyone's ever going to confuse him for a top-flight NFL starter, but as a dime safety, he's held up surprisingly well, better than I would have thought. I know they have really liked his athleticism for the last couple of years. He's finally getting a chance to play some real quality, significant minutes over Josh Jones this last Sunday. And I think he's responded well. Now, I don't think there are still, points in the game where you can point to things like bad alignments and or bad angles, suspect tackling. But those moments are few and far between, much more so than they used to be. I think you've seen real improvement from Whitehead so far early on this year. How can McCarthy's message get stale when roster turnover is so high? I honestly want your thoughts on this. Because the core players are still there. You don't think Randall Cobb has heard this stuff a million times? You don't think Devontae Adams has heard it a million times? Aaron Rodgers has heard it a million times? David Bakhtiari has heard it a million times? Mike Daniels has heard it a billion times? Clay Matthews has heard it a million times? Those are your core players that have heard these same types of messages over and over and over again from the same guy, delivering them the same way. Yes, there has been monster roster turnover throughout his tenure in Green Bay, but the core is very much intact and has been together for quite some time. Now, some of that could change next year with some of these contracts coming off the books, but I'd be very surprised if those guys hadn't gotten, a little, not sick of it, but maybe tuned it out a little bit at this point. If Rodgers' miracle didn't happen in week 1 versus the Bears, imagine the Bear hype we'd all be dealing with as they'd be 4-0. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to imagine it. How will our Rodgers find a rhythm in Motown? Quick passing game, hopefully. Continues to mystify me why they seem to be wanting to push the ball downfield, and that's not just Mike McCarthy. That is Aaron Rodgers. Leroy Butler pointed it out on his latest X's and O's video over at PackersNews.com with Tom Silverstein. There have been opportunities underneath where Rodgers can just hit the 8-yard pass to move the sticks, yet he's training his eyes downfield, trying to look for the big shot, trying to look for the 30-yard gain when the 8-yard gain will do. It is very much a combination of McCarthy and Rodgers. Oh, yes, Jordan Phillips is being cut. Alex, I would be very surprised if Brian Gutekunst went that route. A guy who's been accused of taking plays off, who had a meltdown on the sideline because of playing time, that's not the kind of guy that I see Brian Gutekunst bringing in, especially after he traded away his own guy who complained about playing time and did his old pout on national television last year, and Demarius Randall. I'd be shocked, actually. Need new play caller with new scheme, even if we keep McCarthy. Well, that's never going to happen, Stuart. Good luck with that. Will Rodgers practice all the days? Riley will begin to find out tomorrow. Which receiver will give us the most trouble, Tate, Jones Jr., or Galladay? Well, I tell you what, Jones has given them nothing but trouble, seemingly every time they face him in a Detroit uniform. Obviously, Golden Tate has the history. He's been productive, and I think Galladay showed really some real skill against the Packers last year. But I got to go with Jones. He has been a matchup nightmare. Now, maybe Tremont has the answer there. Maybe a rotation of Jackson and Tremont takes him out of the equation. Maybe Mike Pettin makes things different. But until I see otherwise, Jones has been a thorn in their side for years. Why are we not trying to upgrade the defense by the trade deadline? How do you know they're not, Javier? I don't know. We don't know what calls they're making. We don't know what moves they're attempting. As far as, if you talked about the trade deadline, what trades they're trying to make. I know they weren't reportedly in on Earl Thomas, but that doesn't surprise me because Earl Thomas wanted a monster contract. Yeah, I can't say that they're not trying to improve. They just brought in Rashawn Breeland. You can't really tell me that they're not actively trying to churn the roster. Has someone asked about Kumaro yet? Not yet, Julia. Still, 4 weeks until he can come off injured reserve. Best secondary package versus Detroit if King is still out? Good question, Stuart. I would probably put I think how they ran a lot of the base stuff, the nickel stuff anyway, which is now base basically, against Buffalo, I think would kind of suit them well in Detroit, which would be Tremont and Jackson as your perimeter guys, and then Jair Alexander in the slot. I would think Jair would match up with Golden Tate, and then you would want Tremont and Josh Jackson on the outside against those bigger receivers. Why not Dez? I think the possibility for the Dez ship sailed this offseason. It makes no sense to bring him in now and have to teach him the scheme, and he probably wouldn't be up to speed for another 2-3 weeks. I just don't see it. I think they'll stick with what they got. They drafted those 3 guys for a reason. I was all about it this offseason, but at this point it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Josh Jones see snaps? I don't know, Steve. We'll find out. I mean, Whitehead clearly was moved ahead of him in that dime safety spot, and he didn't receive any snaps from scrimmage against the Bills. He did see action on special teams. I think this week of practice will go a long way in determining that, but right now it sure seems like Whitehead has jumped him. So far, Pettin's D looks like Capers D. Shuts down young QBs, struggles against veteran QBs. What happens this weekend against Stafford? Well, Sean, that's a $1 million question there. Now, I would posit that they're still trying to find their way in the scheme. Yes, they looked good against an overwhelmed rookie quarterback. We've seen young quarterbacks light up Capers before, though, and thankfully that didn't happen. Josh Allen looked pretty good against the Vikings, and Mike Zimmer, who's no joke. Now we've got Pettin making the adjustments off of Allen, and we'll see what he cooks up for Matt Stafford. But I think this first month has been a real kind of feeling out period for the defense. Obviously, every team has to deal with injuries. That's something they've been dealing with at a number of different spots. But I think this is going to be a big test for them. There's no doubt about that. Will we re-sign HaHa Clinton-Dix? At this point, I would be surprised if they did, unless they could get him at a significant discount for even the market rate safety. I would be absolutely shocked if they gave him a big contract extension. How did Byron Bell play at guard? Brian, I thought he held up really well. He was a little shaky early that first drive, but after that, I thought he settled in really nicely. Played well. They gave him help. You knew that was going to happen. Sliding Lindsley his way a couple times, but overall, I thought he held up really well. And the best compliment you can give him is that you didn't notice him. His breakdowns didn't cause any major issues. They had communications issues up front, but that was much more about the whole unit and the quarterback rather than just one individual guy, especially Bell. TJ Lang career in jeopardy with a concussion. Other guy no regrets on letting go? I don't know if no regrets. I mean, I think they would have been a better team had they re-signed him a few years ago rather than let him walk, and I understand the reasoning behind letting him do so. A third contract for a guard is hard to stomach, even one as good as TJ, but I think they would have been a better football team had they kept him around. But, the concussions, injuries, that's all part of the game. What do you see as the logic for Kendricks over Lewis? Daniel, man. The only thing I can think is that they had their packages worked on and usage kind of divvied up, and then Lewis was added so late that McCarthy is basically using him as a, in case of emergency break glass kind of thing, because it doesn't make any sense to me to be rolling Kendricks out there unless maybe they like his athleticism a little more and the versatility he gives them at the line of scrimmage. If Rodgers sees something and goes, say, from a power run into, okay, now I want to spread it out, get a guy flexed out, take him out of the backfield, into the slot, etc., something like that. We've seen that on occasion. Maybe that would be another reason why, but for the life of me, they put him in there and they're using him as a fullback. Put Lewis in there, for God's sakes. That one has mystified me. Hayes is gone, correct. More concerned about our offense or defense? I'm not concerned about either one of them, actually. I think it's a week-to-week league, and what you want to see is improvement week by week. And as frustrating as that offensive performance was against the Bills, it was much better in spurts than we saw the week prior in Washington. They just have to be more productive. They have to execute. They have to catch what's thrown to them. They have to not miss the easy throws. It's all right there. If they just execute, they should be able to score points in bunches. And on the defensive side of the ball, it's like we've been saying. Yes, they played well against an overmatched rookie quarterback. It's their first complete performance on the defensive side of the ball. They have to use that as a springboard and build it. It's got to be a building block. And that's about being consistent, down in and down out, making sure that your fundamentals are good. And I know that sounds cliched and it sounds boring and it sounds like McCarthy, but it's true. Can't get out ahead of yourself. Can't get too hyped up. Can't get too low. Got to keep it even. Kyler Fackrell. Can we talk about Kyler Fackrell for a second? I hope everyone saw my good buddy Andy Herman, who put up the breakdown of his first sack, which was literally an offensive lineman throwing him to the ground and then tripping his own quarterback. That's right, Kyler Fackrell's first sack was the quarterback tripping over his own offensive lineman's foot. Are we a good pass rush away from winning it all? Grant, I don't know about a good pass rush away. I mean, that's certainly a component you're going to need as the year goes on, but I don't think it's a question of this is the missing ingredient / silver bullet. They just have to get better. They have to improve. They have to continue to evolve and get better. And as long as they do that, don't forget, remember back in 2014 when they were on the doorstep of the Super Bowl, or 2010 when they won the Super Bowl. Neither of those teams looked dominant in September. Neither of those teams were you sitting here in like early October thinking, oh man, this is a dominant team. I mean, hell, the Packers in 2010 lost back-to-back games to the Dolphins and the Redskins in overtime. They couldn't score a touchdown against the Detroit Lions at the Lions building. It's a journey, and you just want to be playing your best football at the end of the year. Up until November, December, you just survive in advance, get as many victories as you can, and look for improvement on both sides of the ball. Do I see an extension coming for Crosby? That's a good question, Andrew. He is one of, if not the highest paid kicker in the league right now. I know maybe he's not the highest paid, but I know he's in the top echelon, so to speak. It's going to be an interesting call. The case could be made that, yeah, you got to bring him back. He's absolutely worth the money. He's worth the peace of mind. But a team that has now just paid its signal caller an incredible amount of money might be a way they try to find another specialist in the draft, much like they did this year with the punter, and they find a way to shave some salary cap there. We'll see. Should have kept Jordy another year unless the rookies step up. Paul, that's an interesting point. I mean, I'm always going to be of the opinion that they made the right move in cutting Jordy. And I know Jordy Nelson has looked good. He's being productive out in Oakland now in September. Let's check back in with Jordy Nelson in November and December, which last year in November and December, he looked done. And I'm not talking because of the quarterback. I'm just talking physically. He looked done. So, these aging veterans often will look good in the early part of the season, and then they will fade down the stretch. Let's see what happens with Jordy as the year goes on. Is it possible McCarthy is holding off on creative play calling for later in the season or the playoffs? If he is, that would be very unfortunate. I think it's just the scheme. He's just running his scheme. It's the same scheme they've ran forever. Don't see noticeable differences. They just have to execute. Hold on to the football, complete those passes. They'll be putting up points. It's really that simple. Why no hurry up? Tie is a mismatch. Yeah, Andrew, we've seen it really limitedly. I like it. I know they don't get to it as much as they used to. I'm with you. I think they could be very effective with it, especially the way that Ty gives them a lot of versatility. We saw it against the Bears when they fell behind and they came out in the second half. They got to a lot of that 2-minute stuff. I think they just like it as a wrinkle. They don't ever want to make it their base offense. But I do think they could use a little bit more of it. Reggie over Clay, no-name tackles, taking Clay out of the game week after week. Brett, what? See, this is what everybody talks about Clay Matthews, like he's not hitting. He's hit the quarterback every week. He's tackled the quarterback every week. Did you miss the national conversation about him sacking the quarterback every week? I mean, he's hit the quarterback literally every week. I mean, did you watch Von Miller last night? Von Miller didn't hit the quarterback every play. Yes, there are plays where he gets beat. He's on the tail end of his career. I understand all that. But there are some real unrealistic expectations of Clay Matthews out there. The guy has gone to the quarterback every week. The guy shared a sack this week. He's still affecting the quarterback. He's still affecting the pocket. Yes, sometimes he is taken out of plays. Yes, sometimes he's dropping into coverage. Yes, sometimes he's mush rushing. Yes, sometimes he's spying the quarterback. All of this is true. But this idea that he's completely invisible is really kind of taken hold on the internet, and I'm here to tell you that is just not the case. Now that said, I love Reggie. I love Reggie Gilbert. I think he brings a lot to the defense. I think he's got some really good bend in a way that Perry and Matthews don't. But I mean, let's slow down on this. Matthews isn't doing anything. Matthews is affecting the pocket. Matthews is hitting the quarterback every single week. It's not this. He's not completely disappearing. We need to run 2 tight ends and more Aaron Jones. He's clearly the best running back. William, I absolutely agree there. The Jones thing is tough just because we all see how talented he is. There's no doubt in my mind they're trying to keep him fresh. Don't forget, he had the most snaps of any running back last week. So, he is playing and receiving a ton of snaps, at least as far as comparative to his peers. But I think you look at the time he missed last year, twice with knee injuries, and then again, training camp, he missed several weeks with a hamstring strain. They're just trying to keep him healthy. I think they just want to make sure that they have him all year long. That's as simple as I can put it. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. They fly by so fast, but thank you so much for checking out this and everything we do at Cheesehead TV. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We got tons of great stuff for you. If you're on Facebook, make sure you check out all our articles. Go to cheeseheadtv.com. Tons of great stuff, tons of great content, all for you guys. We're dedicated to Packer fans worldwide. Don't forget, tomorrow, Packer Transplants, 5 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you're there. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good night.